Hi, I'm Fletcher Rhoden, and this is Quotes and Quips. Today, words of wisdom from Colonel David Crockett of the state of Tennessee. Quotes and Quips is brought to you by my website, FletcherRhoden.com. That's where you'll find links to my artist page at Spotify, where you can download my music, or my authors page at Amazon.com, where you can download my books in paperback, or Kindle, or in audiobook format. You can also download my music all over the place at various sites up and down the internet. I've got new music for 2024. And at my website, you can download music for free, which you'll find there exclusively. Okay, today, on Quotes and Quips, Colonel David Crockett of the state of Tennessee, also known to many as Davy Crockett. He gives us this. First, be sure that you are right. And then, go ahead. First, be sure that you are right. And then, go ahead. Well, this echoes a lot of themes we touch on here on Quotes and Quips. It reflects on the modern psychological concepts of procrastination and perfectionism and paralysis analysis. First, be sure that you are right. Well, some people fall into the trap of spending all their time being sure they're right, and they never go ahead. But of course, what the Colonel tells us is, first, be sure you're right, and then go ahead. It's the action which counts. But make sure that your action is right. Do not go in blindly. Don't go in misinformed. If you're going to take action, know that you're right. Know that you're doing the right thing. Know it and know it again. First, he says, be sure that you are right. Well, that's hard to do. It was hard to do then because there was so little information, and it's hard to do now because there's so much information. Everybody is sure that they're right. It doesn't mean that they are, but everybody's pretty sure that they're right, and they're ready to go ahead. But being sure that you're right is so important, because once you go ahead, you can't go back. There are people who are serving, prison sentences because they were sure that they were right and they went ahead. But I don't think they looked into it enough beforehand. Are you sure we're right about this? Are you sure this is okay? You're sure, because you looked into it before we did this, right? And scene. So that's not a good deal. You got to really know ahead of. You got to really know that you're right before you go ahead, because again, you go ahead, and it's true even in small little things, little conversations you have with people throughout the day. You might want to have a sit down with somebody and really, give them the gears, as they say. Well, are you sure you're right? Are you sure it's the right thing to do? Or are you just going off half-cocked, as the Colonel might say? Is it going to be an accurate shot, or will it be a flash in the pan, as the Colonel might say? If you're going to do it, go the whole hog, as the Colonel might say. He might have said a lot of things. He said all those things. But mostly what he said is, first, be sure you are right, and then go ahead. And it's true in other things as well. Investments, businesses, Life choices, getting married, getting a divorce, having a kid, not having a kid. First, be sure you're right. Because once you go ahead, my father used to say, it's easy to move in. It ain't so easy moving out. So, just in terms of that, there's hardly any better quote than from Colonel Crockett. First, be sure you are right. And then go ahead. So this is another quote, which is a two-parter. The first part is the cautionary tale, and the second part is a call to action. It is. Don't be sure you're right, and then don't go ahead. If you're sure you're right, go ahead. If you fail, there are plenty of quotes about success coming from Phil. Winston Churchill said, success is comprised of going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. So, it's okay to fail, as long as you know you're right. Just because you're right doesn't mean you'll succeed. Cyrano de Bergerac said a man does not always fight merely to win. Sometimes it's better to fight in vain. So, go ahead in spite of risk of failure. As long as you're in the right, you're not guaranteed a victory, but it's a fight worth fighting. It's a thing worth doing, a campaign worth leading. I only say fight because the colonel was a military man, and he spent much of his time in the wild, where his life was violent. And he spent a lot of time in the service of the state of Tennessee as a colonel, and that was a violent time too. His autobiography is great. Autobiography. I wrote about Crockett in my book, The Trial of Davy Crockett, which is available on its own as a volume, and it's also in my collection, The Novellas, Volume 1, and it is as an audiobook as well, The Novellas, Volume 1, which contains Last Tango with Marlin and The Trial of Davy Crockett, which pits Crockett against Santa Anna in the Fall of the Alamo. Those are available as audiobooks as well, so you might want to check them out. And the autobiography of Davy Crockett is a great read. You should check that out and give it some thought. First, be sure you are right, and then go ahead. Well, thank you, Colonel, for those wise words. Tune in again next time, because someone else will be sharing some wisdom with us next week. I'm here every Monday at noon, all throughout the year. I leave the reruns up, so there's plenty to look back on. There's also another show, Tracking the Lone Wolf, on its own channel here on YouTube, Tracking the Lone Wolf. So subscribe to both that channel and this one. Check out my music, my website, my books, and check my show out again next week. Until then, bye, Mary.